Dawn breaks with the sound of chaos. You wake to shrieking wasty. Not the saber-tooth attack kind, but the toddler variety. The kind that tells you someone has licked a beetle. Someone else has bitten the ceremonial goat again. And one child, completely nude and absolutely unapologetic, is covered in berry juice and sprinting circles around the fire like a sugar-high squirrel in a footrace with its own shadow. Welcome to parenting in the Paleolithic era. Your mammoth-hide furs are soaked in milk, drool, and whatever mystery fluid the baby sneezed out last night. Your hair smells like fermented tuber stew and questionable life decisions. You haven't had an uninterrupted nap since the last decent meteor. And still, somehow, you wouldn't trade it. Not for all the clean roots in the valley. Well, maybe for 5 minutes of silence, or soap. Or one child, just one, that doesn't shout fire pee every time someone lights a torch. The birth. Eka, surprised there's more of you now. There is no hospital, no doula, no scented candles, no calming playlists called Vibes for a Chill Womb. There is only a damp cave, a screaming mother, a half-conscious shaman rummaging through herbs trying to remember which ones don't cause hallucinations, and a father clutching a rock like it's a sacred user manual. He keeps flipping it over, desperately hoping one side says how to help. Everyone cheers like something great just happened instead of an all-nighter ending in blood and panic. The shaman starts painting a celebratory red spiral on the wall. Unfortunately, Aunt Grub thinks it's a berry snack and licks it. The newborn is immediately swaddled in whatever combination of moss, fur, and clean enough rags are within reach. It blinks once at the world, then screams harder, offended by oxygen. Naming the child is an ancient ritual that lasts about 40 seconds. People yell out names like guesses at a prehistoric bingo game. Smush, Lil Roar, looks like Urge. Eventually, someone suggests something short, shoutable, and functional. Yarp, Gleep, Teeve. That one with loud face. Doesn't matter, as long as you can scream it across a valley when they're about to fall off a cliff. You hold the baby close. They smell like mammoth milk, fear, and potential. Your first instinct is to snuggle them. Your second is to stare blankly at the wall and mutter, "Now what?" Feeding the unfeedable. Caveman babies are basically screaming sacks of goo with digestive systems powered by chaos. They cry, they flail, and they leak from at least 3 mysterious holes at all times. They eat whatever you eat, which is to say, things that should come with a warning label and a prayer. You mash tubers with rocks until they resemble sadness. You boil tree bark until it stops making noise. Sometimes you pre-chew roots and spit them directly into the baby's mouth like a loving but slightly unhinged woodland bird. You call it feeding. The baby calls it a betrayal of trust and texture. When they start crying, and they always do, you try to bribe them like a Cavemen game show host. Behind item number 1, a roasted root. Behind number 2, a slightly chewy goat toe. And for our bonus round, a smooth rock that kinda looks like it's smiling at you if you squint and lower your standards. Sometimes the baby wants all 3. Sometimes they launch them at your face like a rage pressure trebuchet in a onesie. Mothers nurse constantly, while foraging, while cooking, while arguing with Aunt Grack about who tracked mammoth spleen through the sleeping area. Fathers, desperate to participate, pick up their babies like they're either holding a divine gift or a small ticking meat bomb. They almost always hold them upside down at least once. The really ambitious ones try to soothe the baby by showing off a spear or mimicking an owl. It never works. The baby screams louder, everyone panics, and the ceremonial goat faints. Welcome to parenting. Nothing makes sense, everything smells like warm milk and despair, and you're doing great, probably. Baby's first weapon. Eventually, the child learns to grasp. At first, it's adorable. They grasp your finger, your nose, your hair, with the innocent strength of a baby squirrel hugging a thunderstorm. Then they grab your earlobe and hold it hostage for 3 moon cycles like a tiny warlord with no exit plan. They don't just grasp, they claim. Your dignity? Snatched, tossed into the communal fire with 0 remorse and sticky hand. And then it happens, they discover rocks. The first throw is charming, off balance, gentle. Everyone claps like it's the dawn of civilization. By week 3, they're launching pebbles with the precision of a caffeinated squirrel operating medieval siege equipment. It's not playtime. It's an arms race. 3 tribe members go down with concussions and confused admiration. One elder still flinches whenever someone picks up a berry. There's a blood-stained section of the cave wall now, featuring a crude painting labeled Snarp's First Toss in beet juice. It's flanked by a red handprint, a frowny face, and something that could be a warning or a brag. You are raising a gleeful agent of chaos with elite sniper aim and no remorse. And if you're honest with yourself, you're kind of impressed. Discipline in the time of mammoths. Modern parenting recommends gentle redirection. Caveman parenting leans more toward make your scariest face and grunt until someone cries. You try a timeout. The child wanders off, finds a skunk, and comes back cradling it like an emotional support fungus. You name it hissball. It hisses constantly. The child is thrilled. You are not. Next tactic. Guilt. You give the disappointed stare, the dramatic sighs, even the long pauses meant to communicate ancestral shame. The child responds by scratching your likeness onto the cave wall, complete with crossed eyes, an aggressively square head, and what can only be described as an eternal fart cloud. You try silence. They bean you in the face with a beat. Eventually, you land on a system, a prehistoric masterpiece of bribery and psychological torment. Good behavior gets you extra berries. Exceptional behavior, a rare dab of honey. Bad behavior, you sleep next to Grub the Snorer, whose nighttime growls have been known to collapse small caves and wake ancient spirits. The child does not fear bedtime, until they meet Grub. They test the system immediately. Education, but make it violent. There's no school, just existence. And that existence features fire, wolves, mystery mud, and the occasional surprise ambush by a flock of geese with bloodlust in their eyes and an unsettling grudge against small humans. Learning is immediate, violent sometimes. Fire equals ouch. Bees equals betrayal. Falling into the river, that earns you a humiliating nickname that survives generations. Little Gorp is still called Splash Pants, and it's been 3 winters and a near drowning incident since. He's fine. His dignity isn't. There are no classrooms, no chalkboards, no alphabet. Just elders barking ancient wisdom at children with the grace of a stampede. Things like, hit it, no, not that, and you broke the stone, you fix the stone, and if you can't, you're the stone now. Children learn through maximum chaos. They learn to paint, mostly themselves. They learn to hunt, mostly butterflies, occasionally their own shadows. They climb everything, trees, cliffs, each other, and once, tragically, a sleeping mammoth. That led to a very intense 30 minutes, several new swear words, and a strict new rule called no climbing creatures that breathe. There are no grades, no teacher's notes, just scars, stories, and maybe a beet thrown into the fire in your honor for a job well done. You nearly burst with pride the first time your child returns to camp with something dead. Sure, it's a lizard. Sure, it clearly died of shame, but still, dead is dead, and that's progress. Bedtime. Aka the daily battle. You attempt to put your child to sleep. You rock them with all the desperation of someone who once knew peace. You hum a tribal lullaby, essentially a rhythmic plea to the night spirits to not get eaten. You offer them warm roots. You tell a calming bedtime tale about how Uncle Grok got stuck in a tree for 2 days, cried until he dehydrated, and was eventually rescued by a squirrel named Barry, who still sends him judgmental acorns. Your child looks at you like you've failed them on a molecular level. You gently wrap them in soft furs. They kick out like a torpedo with emotions. You lay them by the fire, on the premium moss. They roll immediately into a goat and begin chewing its ear like it's a pacifier dipped in justice. You start singing again, this time with volume and shaky optimism. They scream, you scream, the goat screams. The shaman on the far end of the cave yells, stop the bloody opera or move to a different ice age. Eventually, your child gives up out of sheer stubborn fatigue and face plants into sleep. You collapse beside them, whispering prayers to every god, spirit, and confused celestial rock that if this creature sleeps for more than 9 seconds, you'll give up sarcasm forever. At dawn, they bolt upright, refreshed, beaming, and inexplicably covered in sap. You rise slowly. Find a cold beat in your ear, a tiny foot lodged in your windpipe, and one clear thought rattling around your skull. I used to have dream. Milestones and mayhem. Every parent loves milestones. Cavemen were no exception. You announce each one with the swagger of someone who just invented fire, language, and the concept of bragging. First steps, directly into a hornet nest. Daring, regrettable, legendary. First word, no, delivered with absolute authority, repeated with increasing volume. First tooth, instantly used to bite a raccoon. The raccoon still talks about it. In therapy, you document these glorious disasters on the cave wall using berry paste and emotional damage. Day 18. Snarp sat upright, rolled into the fire pit, showed resilience. Day 29. First scream strong enough to send a hyena fleeing and traumatize 2 elders. Exceptional lung power. Milestones are celebrated with roars, confused applause, and offerings. Usually clumps of dirt, sometimes moss. Once, a gleaming stick so nice it became a sacred family treasure, until it got yeeted into the river during a tantrum. You pretend you're not moved. Total lie. Because the day your child finally learns the sling, grips it right, spins it well, and deliberately misses your head, you choke up. Just a little. That's growth. That's love. That's what passes for parenting in a world where success means nobody got eaten today. Playtime, prehistoric style. There are no toys, no dolls, no action figures, just sticks, bones, and the ever-present possibility of sudden death. And yet, children flourish. They turn every moment into a game, especially the ones that seem like they'll end in injury. Top favorites include Chase the Bug That Might Be Poisonous, spoiler, it always is, How Far Can I Throw This at Dad, spoiler, alarmingly far, and Lick the Ice Patch and Regret Everything, spoiler. Frozen tongue and generational trauma. Pretend play? Oh, they've got it. Entire afternoons are devoted to reenacting dramatic mammoth hunts, complete with grunts, flailing, and unnecessarily intense eye contact. One child always insists on being the mammoth and uses this as an excuse to flatten everyone else. Costumes include loose loincloths, shrubbery, and raw, unfiltered ego. One kid even invents pretend sleeping, which is immediately praised by exhausted adults, until the child uses it as a distraction to swipe half the food supply. Strategic genius. Future warlord, probably. In a moment of misguided hope, you try to introduce rules. A behavioral code. Something noble, like no biting unless dramatically necessary. Within seconds, the children chew the rule stick to splinters and declare themselves the Bite Tribe. Even Jeffrey the squirrel joins the madness. He now wears a tiny bark helmet, rides a baby goat like it's a battle mount, and orchestrates daring raids on unattended berry piles. It's lawless, it's chaos, it's a pint-sized uprising. But honestly, it's adorable. Terrifying, yes, but adorable. Illness, injury, and inventive medicine. Eventually, the child will eat something questionable, fall off something forbidden, or get licked by an animal that clearly had bad intentions and unresolved issues. This is when parenting shifts from nurturing guide to emergency response team with no training and a stick. You panic. The tribe's healer arrives looking like she just rolled out of a moss pile, mutters something in ancient gibberish, and hands the child a steaming cup of moss, spit, and blind optimism. You cradle them lovingly as they throw up with Oscar-worthy flair, then immediately demand beet stew like nothing happened. You kiss their bruises, you smear mud on cuts, and pretend it's medicine. Fevers are not treated, they are exorcised, prayed at, danced around, and shouted into submission. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you end up creating a brand new healing ritual that involves waving a leaf over their forehead while crying into a rock. Either way, the child survives. You survive, but only just. Letting go, sort of. One day they wake up taller. Their grunts have bass. They demand their own spear and start calling you old smell with the casual cruelty of someone discovering sarcasm. You're weirdly proud and mildly offended. They join hunts now. They come back with meat, mud, and exaggerated stories about chasing a bear off a cliff. It was probably a squirrel, but fine. You try not to hover, you fail spectacularly. You offer wisdom they ignore, until you overhear them quoting it to their friends like it's original material. You realize they're growing up, but not too far, because that night, they still curl up beside you. Still clutch your hand when thunder growls. Still pelt you with pebbles as their deeply chaotic way of saying, love you. And then the legend. Eventually, your child becomes a legend, not just in your heart, but on the cave walls. Sketched forever in stick figure glory, you carve their saga, the tantrums, the triumphs, the time they caught a fish using only a goat sock and unshakable rage. Their name works its way into tribal songs, chanted by other kids mid-mud fight like a battle cry. You're no longer just a parent. You're the proud ancestor of the one who licked the fire rock and in that moment, as you stare at their chaos immortalized in berry paint, you realize you did it. You raised an actual human, against all odds, and several goats. And now, us. Now we've got car seats, preschools, and baby monitors that play ocean whales having existential crises. But raising kids? Still chaos. Still magic. Still just a constant loop of, don't lick that, what's in your mouth, and I love you, but if you throw one more object at the drywall, I will ascend to another plane. We lose sleep. We lose socks. We lose entire afternoons to negotiations over broccoli and battles with glitter. But we gain these strange, hilarious little people, tiny versions of us, with more opinions, more volume, and better comedic timing. And even when they grow up, roll their eyes and mutter, "Ugh, you're so weird, Mom," they still carry pieces of you. The love, the weird bedtime chants, the emotional damage from that one time you tried to sing and cook at the same time. Because raising a kid isn't about getting it right, it's about showing up, tired, stained, beaten pocket ready, with your whole heart, and maybe a backup snack. Final grunts of wisdom. If your kid hurls rocks at your face for fun, congrats. They've got good aim and a bright future in chaos. If they adopt a squirrel as their therapist, don't fight it. Just name it and get it a tiny vest. And if you find yourself ugly crying behind a tree because today's parenting felt like 12 emotional stampedes, hey, you're doing amazing, truly. You're not alone. You're part of the greatest, loudest, messiest tradition humanity's ever invented. Raising tiny feral people without a user manual. So take a breath. Deep. Brave. Hug your kid. Hide anything throwable. And carry on, noble parent. You've got this. Club in hand, beat in pocket. Love in your exhausted heart.